you. Never get this stupid thing on me. Problem. And there goes my dog. Anyway, hello you and America. Hello to my and a wicked thugged shout out to my Illuminati members. You are wherever you are in the world. Stick with me. Thank you. If there's any of you loved anyone that's still a friend out there in the great vast cyberspace, thank you for what you do. Thank you for caring and for listening, and I appreciate you. To the one person, unless they're counting me as a fucking person, who the hell knows? Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Anyways, I come to you with not the best of moods and with a various array of complaints. First of all, I want to say to Twitter, and I think maybe it's just site glitching because it's porn, and I don't think this is true. And there's one person, I can't remember the person's name, they let me upload or share photos of Daphne Rosen. And if you're curious, my Twitter profile is, or blog is, Humanist Philosophies. Again, like I said before, and I told you, I got shut down over a year ago now, about a year ago, by basically some people pretending to be liberals. I don't know if they were part of the regressive left, or if they were just conservatives pretending to be liberals, but they were fucking with me quite heavily, let's just say. But anyways, the point is, I have a site, and I want to say to something or another big ass wonder, you draw cartoons of fucking Wonder Woman with big tits and in some cases a cock. I don't think you're too good to allow me to like and share your material. But in case you do, let me just bring you to the reality of what you are. You draw cartoons of Wonder Woman with big titties. The fact that you think you're better than me, and the fact that I actually do something of some worth, even if no one else thinks it is, I'm actually making an attempt, that makes you an asshole and totally fucking delusional. Just saying. Anyways, other news on the item today. Yesterday was the 20th memorial of actually Columbine High School, as well as 420, go get high, smoke weed every day, all that shit. Anyways, it was also the anniversary of Columbine High School massacre. And if you remember, one of the things that happened after that, and to a lesser extent after 9/11, because, you know, if there's one thing Islamic jihadists want to follow, and they're following and keeping track of, it's American fucking pop culture and entertainment and art. Actually, no, 9/11, like Columbine, had nothing to do with art and entertainment in America. It had nothing to do with hardcore rap. It had nothing to do with Marilyn Manson. It had nothing to do with video games like Grand Theft Auto and Manhunt. Those were all things I like. Those are all things I found entertaining. Thank you, Boda. I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you. Thank you. Here, 1 second. Anyways, what I'm saying is, basically, people are becoming more stuck up, and because of my political views, I guess porno stars don't want me to share their content anymore, even on Twitter, so that's nice. But also, in addition to that, I would like to say that, first of all, school shootings have went up since we got rid of the heavy metal and grunge music, since we made everything into Katy Perry pop shit. School shootings have went up. I wonder why that is. Could it be because these incel or these kids that are miserable and bitter, that are horribly treated by people in their lives, maybe, just maybe, they need an outlet or a social outlet like Marilyn Manson, KMFMD, Rammstein, Slipknot, Eminem, Insane Clown Posse, music like that to socially express themselves so they don't go ape shit and shoot a bunch of people? Could that be possible? No, of course not. We need more Katy Perry. But since the fucking amount of school shootings and other mass killings, including even in fucking Canada, that's probably the first one in a million years, even the first school shooting ever in Canada, or not school shooting, it was some kind of shooting, since, I'm saying since, that happened while you have emasculated and basically castrated American art and entertainment, or really North American art and entertainment. Since you have done that, is it possible we can get our music with its balls back? Can we get our music's balls back? Is that, but will you let us have it? Is it possible? Will you let us have, can we have another Antichrist Superstar CD? Another Slim Shady or Marshall Mathers OP? Another Nevermind by Nirvana? One by Pearl Jam? Can we get these things back? Yeah, I agree with you. I agree absolutely. Boda. And if you can look up Boda on YouTube, he's a really good guy. He's really cool, very cool guy. He follows you and he talks to you. And he's a nice guy. Look him up. He's a very nice guy. I don't know a more direct link or how to link you to him. If I did, I would share it. If he wants to share with you a link, that's fine. Because I think he is someone that people should listen to. He's a very nice guy. No, I agree with you. 3-year-olds on Adderall. You're right. Yeah. They are overprescribing children drugs. And that is contributing to our problem. I have Asperger's. Yeah, Bleach. What was it? I forget. And I know I sound like an asshole. Was it Nevermind? I think the album that had Smells Like Teen Spirit was Nevermind. And it had Come As You Are on it. I really like that fucking album. I love Smells Like Teen Spirit. It had that video is so weird because it doesn't seem like it would be, but it's very haunting. It's a haunting video, like it stays with you. And I was like a rap fan, but I had started to get into Marilyn Manson and like Metallica and bands. But when I heard Nevermind, and I mean, again, I'm 13, and this is like 2004, 2005. I finally heard Nirvana, and there was also VH1. They were talking about grunge music. Like, that was the heaviest, coolest thing ever. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome. Yeah. Nevermind. Smells Like Teen, or In Bloom. Come As You Are. There's that song they made. There was a country or a blues singer, I don't know, but they made a song called In the Pines. I mean, that's a really dark song. They made so many cool fucking songs. And Pearl Jam, Jeremy, you talk about a song ahead of its time. But there was a kid that shot himself in front of his classroom because he was being bullied. And who could have imagined what that would turn into with Columbine and all these shootings? And I can't think of his name. That kid, incel kid, what was his name? Elliot Rogers, and all these kids coming out that they're miserable, they're being bullied, they can't have sex, like girls don't like them, and they're miserable, and they don't know how to act, what to do. Our culture isn't conducive to their lives or to their popularity or happiness or prosperity. And it's miserable. It's miserable. And I know about that because I might not be on the same level with some of these people that I would literally go out and shoot people, but I am on the same level insofar as I'm miserable, you know? Yeah, Where Did You Sleep That Night in the Pines? I think that was originally sung by some kind of country singer or something. Or maybe it was a blues singer. I don't know. It was either bluegrass or blues music. But that's a really good song. They sung a bunch of songs, Negative Creep. And you have the band, like I said, Last Kiss Goodbye by Pearl Jam. That's a very sad song. That was by a country singer. Folk singer, yeah, possibly folk, yeah. There's a lot of really good singers that fall into that category, but it's become so polluted by corporations and the mentality of the American South that it's really hard to get a good grip on it. And like, if you look at even the word redneck, it actually comes from people that worked in coal mines until their necks were red from work because they had mud on their neck, and a lot of them didn't know they would make it out alive just to buy their children's shoes or something. And they were miserable, but that has so fallen between the cracks that we just look at them like idiots. But the original ideal behind that was meaningful, and a lot of the original communist unions in America, at least, some of those people were what you would call rednecks, and they would say they're rednecks, and they would protest and work for various reasons to make change. A lot of them were coal miners from Virginia and places like that, and we have totally lost any grip on that in America. But yeah, anyway, the point is they have totally fucked music. And to segue away from that now onto something else, Kim Jong-un, who I have no doubt is an evil man. I'm not saying he's a good guy. That's not the point. He is dying now. He's on his deathbed. I'm not a Christian, but hopefully he can get some kind of spiritual uplifting, and maybe he won't burn forever, whatever the fuck, I don't know. But I'm telling you this, now that the crazy cat is away, the fucking capitalist rats will play. And I'm telling you, you want to know why the world's in the shape it's in? Wait until you see what happens now that this evil midget is gone. I'm telling you what will happen. The United States, that eagle is smelling blood. They're seeing gold in them there North Korean heels. They're going to go in. They're going to mass murder men, women, and children. And they're going to steal their resources. Yeah, Kim is pure evil. I have no doubt about that. But I don't think that our government is good either. Here's the thing. I'm telling you what's going to happen. He was a hard, steadfast dictator that said, no, you're not going to come in. You're not going to steal our resources. We're going to go in. We're going to steal the resources. Netanyahu. I'm not going to comment on that. I have mixed opinions about Netanyahu. I also know it's good for me. So, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to say about that. I do. Look, here's what Bill Hicks said, and no one would deny that he was a progressive, liberal person that wanted the best for everyone. Bill Hicks. The Palestinians need their land, and this was one of the last interviews he ever did before he died, and I hope I'm carrying on. And I have always wanted to pick up where Carlin Hicks left off. I have always wanted to pick up. But here's what he said. The Palestinians need their land. And Israel also serves as a kind of satellite for the United States police state. And whatever deal they make, and he was talking about this in 1993, and of course they came to no deal. But what he said was, I always had a drink of liquor with me. Anyways, what he said was basically they were satellites to the United States. Our one eye, like Islam calls it the Dajjal. Antichrist. They are our eyes of the world. Israel is our eyes of the world. And again, I'm not a Christian, so I'm not saying this is bad, but even their symbol, the hexagram, has 6 corners, 666, if you look at it. It's very complicated. But the point that I'm making is they need their land. Palestine was there before Israel was. I know Rome stole that from the ancient Jewish people that were Hebrew. That's the different group, honestly. But the point is, they need land. And of course, they've been there now for like over 70, 80 years. You can't just take that from them, and we have no right to. They have to live there. And we should be working towards moving those people towards peace. The problem with the United States is we don't want, our American government don't want peace. They want war. So, I mean, that's the major, massive problem with that, But so far as Kim Jong-un goes, he was keeping us out because we were afraid to death of that motherfucker. Just like the people in Iran. We could talk all the shit we want about Iran and Vladimir Putin, whoever the fuck. At the end of the day, they were keeping us out of invading their countries because they are absolutely mental batshit insane. You know what I'm saying? So we don't go in and we don't bomb them. When they die, the United States is a fucking vulture. That eagle is smelling blood. We will go in. We will go in. And before the world's over, and then Futurama predicted this, we will be one global America. It's going to be one new world order. You'll have a microchip in your hand. They could scan it, and if it's going to be like 666 basically. Are you aware of what Israel did to the? Again, I'm aware of what Israel did to USS Liberty. I don't know the details that went into that. I don't want to get caught up into that simply because, look, I'm not saying the Israeli government is perfect because they're absolutely not. And I think Israel has done a lot of bad in the world. but so has the United States, and I live in America. But here's the thing: I'm not an Israeli. I would leave that to Israelis to talk about, and I'm sure there's lots of good Israeli people that will talk to you about and tell you about the United States. But here's the problem with Israel: if you are an American and you're talking about them, they're going to assume you're some kind of anti-Semite, and I'm not. I don't have a problem with Jewish people, and I just would rather not talk about it because it's hard to talk about because I know the allegation that is a lie, but I know what they're going to say and what they will make. Just like when I talk about feminism, it's hard to talk about feminism, but I almost have to because it's so close to my life. But when I point out the simple fact, they don't care about a lot of males, and it's hard to depend. It's hard to pinpoint men into one group. You have transgender men, you have androgynous men, gay men, bisexual men, you have black men, white men, poor men, rich men. You can't just say, well, men have privilege, because that's not true, you know. Well, it's the same damn thing with Israel. Now, if you're talking about white people versus black people, here's the thing, or what I can say. I can say white people have privilege because you're less likely to be stopped and harassed by the U.S. police. Now, there are some people that are, and they're beaten. I'm not saying white people don't get beat up and fucked over by the police, because they do. But it's not the same or as much as fucking black people do. You see what I'm saying? So the point that I'm making is I don't want to talk about Jewish people because you're going to say I'm a bad person because I said something about Jewish people. It's a very hard topic to talk about without somebody lying about you. And I know that because I've tried to before. It's not easy. And here's the other thing. Like I said, they have been there for 70 to 80 something years. They've been there for like a long fucking time. You can't just all relocate them back to somewhere else. Hey, move into America, you know. I don't think so. I think feminists asking an Israeli about Israel is like asking a female about feminism. There are females that will tell you the truth. There are Israelis and Jewish people that will tell you the truth. And Israel is, I agree. They've been there for at least 1,000 years, and even before that, it was probably ancient Canaan. If you know anything about the ancient Hebrews or Judeans out of the Bible, they actually stole that land from the ancient Canaanites, the Canaanite people. There's a documentary, if you can find it, called The Ring of Power, and that is a fascinating documentary. I'm not saying it's true, but it's a fascinating documentary. But the point that I'm making is they have been there now for 80-something years. They are human beings. They're people just like you and me. We stole this land from the Native Americans or the Indians. We can't just give it back, because if we did, we would be screwed. We'd have nowhere to go. Europe isn't just going to take us because we're white brothers. They don't give a shit. Just like blacks, I mean, they have to live here. Black people, Africa is going to say, come back in, black people. Like, you have to live where you are, and they have to defend themselves. And in Hamas, and some of those groups are not always peaceful. They will attack you. In fact, Israel actually gave a ceasefire for I think it was 2 days to Hamas, and Hamas kept firing missiles into Israel. So it's not that easy over the Gaza border. So it's not that easy. But you also have to keep in mind, Israel had been at war with them, and you would remember Operation Wrath of God, because they were pissed because they supposedly Palestinians launched a missile that killed the Israeli school children. So they were angry, and they launched Operation Wrath of God, and that was back in the 70s, and I think the early 70s, and it has never really cleared up since then. And they're still at war till this day. But of course, Israel fucks with Palestine, Palestine fucks with Israel. That's where the United States is supposed to be the adult in the situation, because we're supposed to be the world power. We're modern day Rome, basically. Why don't we step in and help people function and get along together? Move Israel. I don't think anyone on the earth would want to move to Saudi Arabia, but how would that work? Saudi Arabia is already a country. That doesn't make any sense. But the point that I'm making is, we could all try to move Israel into Jewish neighborhoods. You have Brooklyn. You have certain communities in Florida. You have certain communities in California. Certain communities in probably everywhere in the world, even in the Bible Belt. Again, Israel, not Israel, but Christianity, Bible Belt. Even their fucking words reek of violence, Christianity. But the point is, it's not that easy because ultimately at the end of the day, they still have to have somewhere to go back to. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be like, it doesn't work that way. They have to have somewhere to go back to. So I appreciate your comment. And if you have anything else to tell me, and I'll get back to you later. This is past 20 minutes. I don't know. Like, let me ask you, can you still see me? Can you still see what I'm saying? Boda, can you still see this? All right. Well, anyways, I'm going to close this off because I don't think these. Okay. Has it cut any video? Like, has it cut any part of my video off at the beginning? That's the last thing I'll ask you. That's all I need to know. No. Just tell me. Has it first? Tell me. Has it cut anything off the video at the beginning, the very beginning? And I'll answer your question. I swear to God, please. Okay. Listen. Yeah, Israel is being the more aggressive partner. I absolutely agree with you. I don't agree with Israel's actions. The only thing I don't agree with, here's the thing, the right wing, we have built up this American right wing because of people like George Lincoln Rockwell, who was a horrible person. And he even said, okay, thanks, man. But here's the thing. I just, let me tell you this. Here's the thing, George Lincoln Rockwell, here's what people don't know about him. He said he wanted, like, he actually said, and I mean, this is a fact, not only did he hate gay people more than he did blacks or even Jewish people, he wanted to kill gay people. Like, he said that the Bible said that was a fucking crime against nature and a crime against God, and he advocated for the murder of homosexuals. And again, you have to ask, how can I, as a progressive liberal humanist, advocate, liberate, try to get along with these people? The only one guy, and I'll say this, and this is not going to be popular, but there's a guy named Tom Mesker, and I'm sure he's a complete fucking asshole, but he is the only one that makes a lick of sense out of any of those types of people. And the thing is, even he is hard to really get a grasp on, and he says the N-word, and he is a racist, and I don't agree with any of that. But he does make sense sometimes. He'll talk about economics. He'll talk about class warfare. He'll talk about the environment. He'll talk about ending these damn wars. He'll talk about rich people. When he's not talking about the typical Nazi nonsense, that is a guy that makes a lot of sense, and I'll give him credit for that. I don't think he is. He might be. A lot of them are. A lot of Nazis and people like that are gay. He said, I'll tell you what he said himself, because I listen to him because I have no life and I get bored. But I'll tell you one thing he said himself. If you want to know one person that is certainly gay, I don't care who they are, find a Christian preacher, because he was sitting there listening to one, and he was preaching some kind of British Israelism or some shit. I forget what it was, Anglo-Saxon bullshit. But he was listening to this cocksucker, and he was talking, probably literally, but he was talking about the gays. He said, man, he said this guy told him, I'm telling you, that motherfucker is a homosexual. Because every time you get one of these rich ass, white, straight, male, chauvinist pig motherfuckers to talk about gay people and transgender people, they all turn out to be gay. And a lot of them will turn out to be child molesters, if you want the truth. Look at the Christian church, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, and the amount of children that have been molested by priests. And it's no funny thing. It's a fucking serious issue. And and then you talk about like drag kids, for example, these kids who dress like girls, and their parents go and they take them to these shows because they enjoy that. And there's nothing dirty about that whatsoever. There's nothing more dirty about that than there is a boar, or a girl rather, dressing like a boar and fucking playing football. They enjoy doing that. There's nothing dirty about that. But these Christians will join outside of city halls and fucking communities and hold protest signs, and we hate these kids because they dress this way and they're wearing makeup, and we hate their parents, and how can you let your kid wear makeup? Well, what about your little girl when she's playing in the football team and she has short hair and she's wearing blue jeans? That's okay. But when a boar wants to do the reverse of the same thing, you have no problem. And you also had no problem for decades until about 2006, and I started seeing documentaries about it. But for many, many decades, there was little girls playing in pageants and things and dressed like that. You had no problem with it. Even worse than that, you had no problem. But now you want to put a boar in a dress and let him grow his hair long and wear makeup just to make him feel better and make his life happier because he enjoys doing that, because a lot of boys do. And I know I did at that age and I still do and always have and always will. You're going to hate on him and pick on him. Why? Why is it okay for your fucking daughter to do what she wants, but you won't let a boy do the way he wants? Do you? And again, you might not be there, and if so, I'm sorry, but do you have an answer for that? I would like to know. What's dirty about a boy dressing how he wants? These dry clean kids or whatever the hell they call them. What's dirty about that? I don't see anything wrong with it. Do you have an answer? I really would like to know. I honestly mean that. I want to know. There's nothing. Yeah, or like something I heard really depraved, and that's not dry cleans, that's transgender kids. Dry clean kids might do that later, but that's not as important for them. That's more transgender kids. The thing they're worried about is when they turn, say, 13, 12. For me, it was 11 because of WWE. I mean, like, damn, looking those damn divas. Look at Tori Wilson's ass every week. I mean, I grew pubic hair pretty fast. Yeah, I agree. But here's the thing. They're worried that when they get to high school, middle school, high school, they won't fit in as a girl because they don't have breasts. They don't have female features. And that can ruin their life because that's creating an entire generation of people that know them. And I know from going to school as a halfway normal person, not really, but still, it can ruin your life because I still, until this day, don't fit in with people. And a lot of that is based on dumb decisions I made in high school and middle school. But the point that I'm making is the more depraved thing, what I'm really against, is sex change operations. And I don't even necessarily support that for adults because I think that somebody should really seriously question their psychological situation and their psychology. And I know that Jazz Jennings, who was one of America's youngest transgender girls, and she was a transgender child, she ended up having sex operation when she was sex change operation. She was 19. And I have to question that, especially growing up with her and becoming emotionally attached to this character I watched on TV. I don't necessarily really support that, to be honest with you, because I don't think or know for sure that she knew what she was doing. And I think that almost like, are you doing the right? But here's the thing, I feel like they're pressured into it. But when you do that to like a child, and there was this case where a 7-year-old, there was a case, for example, where a 7-year-old was being opted to have a sex change operation. And I don't think that was in America for once. I know we circumcised 6-year-olds in Florida against the mother's permission because the father was an asshole and wanted it. But we don't have sex change operations performed on children, I don't think, at least in America. But this was in England, I think. Well, perhaps Australia or somewhere in the UK. But the point is, I think Australia's in the UK. That's not important. But the point is, he was being petitioned to have a sex change operated by the mother because she said he wanted it. And I don't know if he did or not, but at that age, can you really decide such a thing? And the father took his credit, did not permit this child to have a sex change operation. So you start with circumcising them, and then you end with cutting off their dick completely, I guess. But that's not the point. What I'm saying is, like, a child cannot permit to that, and the father did not permit it, and the father actually won that case, just for the record. And I forget exactly where I was going to go with this or say, but basically, hormone situations is a different issue. I think that's an important thing for children to do. I don't see the importance of having a sex change operation. I don't support that. And I don't trust some parents, as sadistic as they are. And this is why I don't support circumcision being legal until 18. Because I don't trust parents to let their children choose. And they say they chose it and they didn't. And it's the same thing with the sex change operation or breast implants or anything else. That may be, but it's not quite as dramatic or as serious as actually having a child undergo a sex change operation. That is the major thing I'm worried about, is these parents that would say that. Again, I don't care if you're transgender. I support transgender rights. I love transgender women. I like them before they have any surgery. They don't need a surgery. I like if it's on a girl, But the point is, what I'm worried about is these parents choosing that for their children or their child. How do you know you don't have some kind of sociopath on your hands that will choose to cut off a child's penis? You don't know. You have all kinds of mental ass evil people out there that will do anything. You don't know. And I don't know the child really wants that. And even if they do at that age, can you really decide that? If a child really decided to have their foreskin cut off, could they really decide it? Same thing for labia, or if they wanted breast implants or anything else. You can't decide that kind of thing at an early age. It should be something after you're 18, you can make up your mind to do or decide on by yourself. It should not be up to the government and the rich people and the rich capitalist pigs to decide for you. And I don't trust these parents to make that decision, to be honest with you, because I don't have a lot of faith in my fellow human. I'm not going to lie. Hormones, I don't have a problem with. I know it can cause major problems, but I don't think it's as serious. And I know that steroids, for example, there was a child called Little Hercules I have talked about before that had steroids injected into him, antibiotic steroids to increase testosterone. Actually makes your testicles shrink, by the way. But he bulked up to the size of like a giant. He's like this little 4-foot kid, but he had these giant muscles like some kind of rock monster. And their parents were profiting off him going to these bodybuilding competitions. He's a little kid, when he was a little kid, And it was a major scam, really, on the part of everyone. And the child is the one that really suffers and pays at the expense of what the parents were doing. And eventually they stopped it, and the parents might have even been punished. But I don't consider that. I don't consider taking estrogen as bad as that, do you? But again, that's just my point of view. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because, if you look at the direction of our economy and the economic situation we're all going in, man, woman, or child, you're all going to be totally screwed over. Yeah, he probably does. That was something that happened. And if you look at, and these are adults probably largely, or some of them are teenagers as young as 17 even. I think Jeff Hardy started when he was 17 or something like that. But you had wrestlers who started on steroids and shit. And you have Hulk Hogan, if you look at him, and like Brock Lesnar. And again, in my opinion, that guy doesn't look right. That's our ideal of manhood. Is not like we don't humanize men. We don't treat them like human beings. We look at them as like workhorses and soldiers. That's how we treat them as workhorses and cannon fodder. Cannon fire. You might as well stick them in a fucking cannon and shoot them out at Iraq. We don't give a fuck about men in this country. And part of the reason for that is we need those men, those males, who are still teenagers largely in those cases, or when they're young, or we're used to them being teenagers, going over to shoot at other males in Iraq. And it's an exploitation of males and manhood, actually. And it's the opposite of what the feminists claim with their privilege bullshit. Is the exact absolute opposite of that. But they have spent their fucking narrative and everything else on something like infant genital mutilation or circumcision of male children is not legal, while female genital mutilation, even if it is alternately equivalent to the same thing, is legal. And that's wrong. And you're basically forcing a cosmetic surgery on a child, or an infant child in this case, or children, and you're saying that you're only as good as other people think you are, and you should conform to what they think you should be, even if it takes violence and surgical operation, like literally body amputations and mutilation and surgery to get to be what they are and to be like they are. You need to do that. And we're not telling females that in the same way. Yes, there are females that get breast implants, but do they do it for one single guy, or do they do it for like the porn industry to make more money? And it's not necessarily the same damn thing with a guy. It really just is not. And one's legal and the other isn't. And that to me reeks of absolute horseshit, but you call this privilege. And I just don't see where the privilege in being a man is. I can see white privilege. I can see white people have it better than black people, but I don't see male privilege. I don't see it. I don't understand it. It's just my fucking basic mentality. Maybe you see it. Maybe you're seeing it where I'm not seeing it, but I don't see the shit. I just don't. So anyways, I'm sorry. I'm going to end it there. Anyways, thank you for commenting. I appreciate your commenting, and P666.